Hey, Lorenzo.
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you, Daniel. Thank you for bearing with me.
I understand. I appreciate the message. It would have just felt better if you could have let me know before you were running late instead of once you're late. I
Yeah,
hope you understand that would have felt a little bit better.
that's good feedback. Yeah, but I wasn't anticipating it. Kind of just last minute. I apologize.
Okay.
But how are you?
Um,
Can you hear me all right?
yeah. Well, let me just say one thing just because I want to be in a good mood for our show and I want to give you a really good show. I know that you're probably busy and distracted. Usually I get really busy. And usually, if I'm just a little more careful or just considerate to the person in the busyness, you can still sort of respect the person's time. So I get you were busy, but it would feel, if it feels true to you, for you to say, yeah, I could have been more careful or a little more considerate and let you know ahead of time. That would feel a little bit better to me than like I was just busy or I didn't anticipate it. I don't know.
Sure. Uh, yeah, I definitely could have been. That's something I need to work on.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. It's not you. Well, it's all people that
No, it is me. It was me.
no, I mean, it's the world. We don't show up for people at a high level, and when you sometimes people say sorry, they'll say, "Oh, I was busy," or there was a lot going on, and I always say, unless you're literally, we can always usually, even within the busyness, if we're careful or considerate, we can still look after people. So for me personally, when people say like I remember this one person was 2 hours late and they showed up and they just said, ah, they didn't even acknowledge they were late. And I said, hey, you were 2 hours late. They said, oh, traffic. But I was like, it's not like you hit traffic the first time. You knew there'd be traffic. Why didn't you plan better? Or why didn't you let me know when you were in traffic? So she was trying to blame that there was traffic, but it wasn't that there was traffic. It's that she wasn't more careful because we all know there's traffic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to. This is awesome because I don't get a lot of feedback like this, and not many people hold other people accountable. And like I'm in this personal development type of field and podcasts and things like that, so I definitely hold myself accountable. So it's like I understand, and those things are like cop outs, right? Like, how are you doing? I'm fine. How was your day? It's great. So it's like, yeah, not not to use that as a cop out. I definitely need to prioritize and plan and be mindful of other people's time. Like I said, I really appreciate because not many people are upfront and give the feedback, and it's helpful all the way around.
Well, you're welcome. Part of the program that we've built, we're so proud of it. And I know it's much more effective than what's out there. It's hard to prove to people, but I act differently than most people won't stand up, especially to a stranger, especially I'm on your show, right? I want you to like me. But I've learned I have a lot of self-love and I know who I am and I know how to speak up, but it took years. It's my program. I have a lot of confidence now. I do it. So thanks for seeing it because most people don't. And then also just receiving the feedback because it's confronting to find out you're not as cool as you think. And then just to say, you know what? He's right. I could work on that. And that's maturity. And so gold stars to both of us.
Yeah, I mean, how many people have you're saving in the future in my relationships and things like that just by speaking up? So, uh, yeah, I appreciate it again, and thank you um, for being honest.
You're welcome. And I will tell you this. I don't know if it's getting worse or, as you get older, you look back on the younger generation, you're like, oh, kids, get off my lawn. But well, one, all ages are doing it. But I've talked to people like the basics, consideration, or you're running late, saying sorry. Just the basics, like what you did, totally human, but acknowledge it, own it. Don't cop out. Especially around time, getting back to people. I mean, I'm sure you see it all the time, the ghosting, the inconsideration. It's just, it could be getting worse. If it's not getting worse, it's bad. And I see it a lot. My business partner has 5 podcasts in the top 0.5%. And he has a lot of people on. And we trade war stories of like podcasters. And we're just like, on what, how, be more professional. You can run late, you can cancel, but like be an adult. So I hope you're younger. I'm proud of you for doing this.
Well, Daniel, this is really, really important, and I kind of like this. Are we able to stay in this moment? Because I've been recording this whole time, and my show runs from anywhere from 17 years old to 35, maybe 40 years old. But I'm 29 myself. I'm turning 30. But I just think that this type of situation is very important for young people to understand. And I've been ghosted myself. I've been canceled on last minute. Have canceled last minute on people. And I just think that it's important to like, how do we take accountability ourselves, or how, what can we share for people like myself and younger individuals that might not be considerate.
Well, very elegant content pivot, Lorenzo, to take our situation and use it as a teachable moment. And it actually dovetails into what I want to share with your audience, which will reveal itself later as we go on. But essentially, what you're pointing to is what I categorize as the what, meaning what's the problem and what would be better. And we look out in the world and we know what the problem is and what would be better. Being kinder, being more compassionate, more empathetic, more responsible, less violent. 99.9% of what would make the world a better place, what would make us a better person, we kind of already know the what. So even just like you owned it, saying like, oh, I could have done it. But like, I'm not the first person you've done it to. You've done it in the past, and yet here you are doing it again. So you know the what. And even if we told your audience and your audience said, oh, young people or all ages are inconsiderate, and wouldn't the world be better if we were considerate and more mature? That's just the what. Here's the problem. The what is natural kindness. So knowing what is better, it's not that helpful because it's common sense. What we're missing, what the world needs, and what I'm bringing to the world through my company is the how. The actual process that works quickly such that the what that you want to become or the person you want to become, you get to become that person. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about the what. Books are written about the what. How to be an entrepreneur, how to believe in yourself. So much is the what. What would be better? What is true or what is wrong? But they don't teach the how. And that's why we know what would be better in ourselves and the world, but the world is not getting better and sometimes even getting worse. It's because we don't have the how. And that's what my company spent 8 years building, because I knew what the problem was, Lorenzo. I was anxious. I was a perfectionist. I was a people pleaser. I was a procrastinator, and I had low self-confidence. I figured that out early on. So I read the books and the videos, and I went to retreats and therapists and psychologists and gurus. I spent 10 years and $100,000 trying to fix the what. And after 10 years, I looked at the results. And the results were, well, I'll ask you, do you think A, everything was completely gone, or B, after 10 years, all I could do was be aware of it and manage it?
The latter.
Yes. And it's not just me, it's the whole world. And I just had this sort of wake-up moment that personal development, therapy, psychology, it's well-intentioned people, and they're good at pointing out the what, and that's what we pay for. But what they don't get and what they don't have is the how. And without the how, what you get is crappy results. That's just not a good result. 10 years, $100,000. I'm still got the stuff. I mean, if you took your car to a mechanic and 10 years later you were learning and exploring and understanding why your car wouldn't run, you'd be like, that's a horrible mechanic. That was a waste of money. But when it comes to our inner mechanics, we spend a lot of money and time and years, and we never get the result we want, which is real freedom from the stuff that holds me back. It's not good results. Again, there's value in it. You get insights, you get awareness, you get tips, and you get tools. But in my experience, from talking to a lot of people, knowing this industry, you're never free of it, which is not a good result. And the reason results matter to me is because when I was a kid, my dad is a physicist. And he sat me down and he said, anybody can have a theory or an idea. He said, but you never really know who knows what they're talking about. He said, it's the person that gets results. That's who really knows. Results matter. And that idea that results matter stuck with me to the point where I went to engineering school, where I was trained to look at complex problems and engineer a simple solution and design a prototype and then test the prototype, get results, refine, calibrate until you can build something that works. Engineering, it's results. Does it work? And does it work consistently? So the good thing is I was trained how to make machines work, but I was never trained how to make relationships and life work. So yeah, I could make a robot that plays ping pong, but I was an anxious, insecure, people-pleasing, procrastinating person with low self-esteem. So in that moment, after 10 years of trying to be free of all that stuff, I felt alone. I felt broken. I was unhappy. I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. And honestly, I was kind of pissed. Like 10 years, $100,000, and I'm still stuck with this stuff. And I sort of looked up to the heavens and whoever's up there listening. I was just pissed. I just went like, what do you want from me? Like, what am I missing? And I was just being angry and screaming. And if anybody walked by, they probably had schizophrenia. But the point is, I didn't expect an answer. I was just being mad. But an answer came back. And the answer was what my dad told me when I was a kid, which is results matter. And I just looked at the entire personal development, spiritual, psychological industry. And I said, they don't get great results. And so I had this sort of wake up call of, I know how to get results. I'm an engineer. Engineers are not only trained to get results, but also we're passionate about solutions and results. Most of the innovation that you see in the world around you, those are engineers and scientists that are passionate, trained problem solvers. They focus on one thing and they work on it, and they work on it, and they work on it until they get it. The Wright brothers, they knew what everybody else knew. They knew what it took to make a fly. You look at a bird wing, there's also an equation, Bernoulli's principle, which explains why a wing works and why you get low pressure and high pressure. Everybody knew what you needed to make a plane fly. The reason they were first is they built a prototype, and for 4 years, they tweaked it and optimized it and adjusted and measured it. And that's why they were the first to flight, because they were basically bicycle mechanic engineers and just stuck with it. And when you stick with something and you want a problem solved, you create great things. So I thought to myself, maybe we could reverse engineer a system, like a way for people to be free of what holds them back quickly and reliably and get better results. Now, I didn't know if we could. It was sort of a kind of a cool thing to say, like, ooh, I'm going to start a company. And so it was way harder than I thought. But engineers, of which I am and my team, where engineers are passionate problem solvers. So it took 8 years. We worked with 3,000 people on 5 continents. We worked with NFL athletes in the US. We worked with entrepreneurs in Europe. We worked with monks in India. We worked with addicts in South Africa and Latin America. And after 8 years and over $1 million in research and development, we finally cracked the code. And that is that we have a 6-week online program. It's a system, keyword system. And the system has everything you need in there, all the tools and all the instructions that make it very simple, such that if you follow the steps in the way we've laid out, you get the results. And we know you get results because we measure your results. We measure you in either anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, or low self-confidence. We measure you in several emotional biomarkers. And as you go through the program, you are reporting each day your numbers and levels, so we can track your progress. And we know at the end the results that you got. Now, if we don't get results, we don't charge you. And this isn't a money back guarantee. When you work with us, we don't charge you at the beginning. Why? Because results matter. We haven't gotten you a result. We charge you at the very end once there's clear, conclusive data that what you're struggling with is gone and not coming back. And we do that for two reasons. The first reason is nobody believes we can do this. What we've developed and what engineers are good at is innovation. We're inventors. We're innovators. And when anything is innovative, it starts off being too good to be true. So nobody believes that we can get you free of these things in 6 weeks. You've had this your whole life. You've tried all sorts of stuff. It's just Band-Aids. So the fact that we can get you free of it, nobody believes. They're skeptical. So we say, fine, be skeptical. I get it. But you only pay at the end when you get the results. So you can be skeptical, but this way we can help more people. But also, results matter, Lorenzo. And if we can't help you, why are we taking your money? A lot of other people in this industry will. They'll gladly just take your money, not help you much at all, not measure anything. They have no problem with it. I do. If we can't help you, we don't take your money. We only do it when we help you. One, because results matter, and two, because it's the right thing to do.
And what is it about this personal development industry that we're so attracted to? That we know the what, we think we try to figure out the how, but it just doesn't work, and we end up failing. Is there something to that? And then another question after that is, what surprised you during your research of the results that you were getting?
Wow, really good question. So just so I have clarity, ask the first question again.
What is it about the personal development industry making billions of dollars in books, and everyone comes out with a book and they're thinking that's going to be the book for me and that's going to fix my problems? What is it about that industry that we go towards and we're not figuring out the how?
Wow. Well, it's a big question. I've wondered this myself. I'll never know what's in other people's hearts, but I've been asking this question of a lot of people, both clients of personal development, coaches of personal development, talking to therapists, talking to spiritual teachers, trying to get to the bottom of this. Because what we discovered, and I'll be sharing with your audience how it's possible to be free of what you're struggling with quickly so that it makes sense to them. I'm not expecting you to just believe me. I'll tell you how simple it is. I'll give you the blueprint. When we figured it out, I then saw that it was sitting right under everybody's noses. It's not complicated. We didn't figure out anything particularly. It's obvious once I explain it to you. It's dead simple. A lot of the big innovations of the world are simple. The question is, why did we, engineers, why did we discover it and why did others not? There's a couple reasons. First of all, most coaches, therapists, psychologists, gurus, teachers, they are learners and sharers. They learn something helpful or value either from a book or from their own experience or their own teacher or from the school they go to. And it's usually symptom management, meaning it's an understanding or a perspective or a tip or a tool that helps you manage it. They learn it and they share it. They're learners, sharers. And they're focused on the inner world of learning and inner sharing. Okay, so they like to learn things about our inner experience, and then they share it. But what are they not? They're not trained, Jedi-level, passionate problem solvers. They're not innovators. The innovators, the engineers, they're not the learner sharers. They're the innovators. You can see, look at all the technology we have. That is problem solvers focused on the outside world. And look at what they accomplished. There's a helicopter on Mars, Lorenzo. Are you kidding me? They put a rover. Do you know what it takes to get the rover on Mars to stay alive for years? That's incredible. Then they were like, you know what? We're not able to see it from a very high altitude. And someone was like, how about a helicopter? And someone said, hell yeah. And there's a helicopter on Mars remotely. You know why? Passionate, trained problem solvers. But here's the thing. Problem solvers aren't learner sharers because they're busy problem solving. Edison had 1,000 patents. Guess how many books he wrote?
None.
0. Why? Because he doesn't want to share stuff. He wants to fix stuff. So the learner sharers aren't innovators. They're not problem solvers. So they're not innovating and they're not solving anything. They're writing books, they're doing retreats, they're doing workshops, and they're making money, and they're focused on the inside. Okay, fine. The trained, elite level, focused, passionate problem solvers are focused on the outside world. So we have all this innovation on the outside, the technology. And those two worlds aren't overlapping. I don't know what my karma is. I don't know why I was chosen from Hogwarts or what, but in this weird little Venn diagram of the planet of the learners shares on the inside and the innovative problem-solving engineers on the outside, there's an overlap. And in that little sliver of overlap of internal explorers and engineer problem solvers is me. So the reason we figured out the how is because it was not easy, but an engineer problem solver can do it. They're just focusing on the outside, figuring the external physical how, and we found a how for the inner world. That's answer number one. But there's another reason, which is a little bit sadder. Even though I think an engineer is a good candidate for a problem solver, what we figured out was they could have figured it out. You don't need to be an engineer to figure out what we figured out. It is so simple what we figured out. It was sitting right under everybody's nose. And I've asked myself, why don't these therapists and psychologists see what was sitting right in front of them? And the reason is this, and I've asked therapists and coaches this, they're complacent. They know they're not solving things quickly. They know they're giving tips and tools to manage. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's value in it. But they know they're not solving anything, and they're certainly not solving anything quickly. That's okay. If that's the best you can do, fine. The issue is they're okay with it, Lorenzo. They're complacent. It doesn't bother them. They're fine clients coming back year after year after year. That makes my stomach churn. I don't want to, our program's 6 weeks. I don't want to see you in 6 weeks. Okay? If you're a mechanic, you want the car to come in, you repair the car goes out. So they're complacent. They're fine. Unconsciously, it's a great business model. You never solve their problems. They keep coming back for more and more and more. I talked to a therapist who said when she was in school, getting officially licensed, she was told by one of her professors that of the people that she would try to help, 1/3 she would help, 1/3 she wouldn't help, and 1/3 would actually get worse under her care. Now, that's not the problem, Lorenzo. Again, if that's the best results you got, you do what you can. The problem is nobody had a problem with that. Nobody jumped up and said, wait a minute, you mean I'm not going to help 2/3 of the people and I'm still going to, nobody cared. If I'm in engineering school and my, engineering teacher said, I'm going to show you some things. 1/3 of the bridges you make will work. 1/3 will be so expensive they'll never be built. And 1/3 will collapse, killing thousands. I would be like, I'm going to go find somebody else who's not killing people. Results matter. So the reason they didn't discover the how, they're not incentivized to find a solution. They're incentivized. The money's in the management. The satisfaction's in the solution. So they're not incentivized. They're not bothered by it. But even if they were and they wanted to innovate, it does take a lot of hard work and focus to pull it off. So all three of those are the reason it's not happening. And I'm not here to disparage the people that are out there trying to help. They're doing the best they can. They don't know what they don't know. I'm here to educate your audience because your audience is going to go looking for help. Personal development, therapy, psychology, spirituality. And they're going to, quote unquote, trust these experts. The experts are not motivated or equipped to solve your issues. They're completely solvable. That's what our program does. That's how we back up our results. And they are going to give you stuff that's going to keep you stuck. And I'm telling you this so you don't blame yourself. I used to blame myself thinking, oh, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. Maybe I'm just stuck. Maybe this is my childhood. This is not your fault. The reason you still have your symptoms is because the experts are just managing symptoms and they're not even trying to solve it. That's why you still have these problems. It is not your fault. It's a fault of the $1 trillion improvement industrial complex. So don't blame yourself. They are asleep at the wheel. Fortunately for you, as far as I know, we're the only company that focused on a fast, permanent solution where we measure results and we back up our results by letting you pay at the end.
Wow. Just hearing that just gets me fired up. I'm just like, that makes me so mad that, I have, my wife goes to therapy and like things like that. And I've been thinking about like going to things like that, but it's just like, you hear about those things, you're not sure how it's going to take. Is it a cycle? How long are you going to be going for before something actually gets fixed? Is it a 6 week? Is it going to be 6 weeks, or typically it's going to be like 6 years?
I mean, this is what I'm trying to wake people up to. We have been just sort of hypnotized to tolerate this because that's what's available on the market. There's nothing really better. So you're sort of stuck with this. And I just want to wake people up and say, like, just look at it with a fresh set of eyes and just be objective. Therapists don't measure anything. They're not measuring anything. When your wife went in, did they like say, okay, here's your struggling, let's like write things down? They do that when you're a doctor. They take your vitals. They measure things. Blood count, cell count. They measure stuff in physical, emotional stuff. No measurement.
No measurement.
So if you're not measuring, that should be suspicious, but it's not. We're like, okay. Also, they don't claim what they're going to do. They use the word help. Help. How help?
Right.
Help me how? They don't state it. Okay? They'll use words like cope with. What does that mean? Is it gone? Is it what do cope with? Manage? Overcome? What are you going to do? If you take your car to a mechanic, your mechanic doesn't say, hey, I'm going to help you really gain understanding and insights to cope with your broken car. No, I'm going to fix your car. It's clear. So we're clear, okay? What you're struggling with, whether it's anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, or low self-confidence, by the time you're done with the 6 weeks, it's gone.
Right.
We're calling our shot. It's gone, and we measure results, and we back up results. So we are in integrity. The rest of the industry, while well-intentioned, they're completely out of integrity. And also, just the fact that it takes years. Mm-hmm. And they just take your money. And they don't help. They never say sorry. They never say like, hey, sorry, I had a therapist took $8,000 from me. I was never better. They never said, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't do a better job. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. And this is what really grinds my gears. Pardon my friends. Mental health is getting worse. Anxiety's on the rise. Depression's on the rise. Addiction's on the rise. People taking their own life is on the rise. Okay? That's bad results. If your results are getting worse, it means you are not an expert in your field. If you're an expert in your field, you get good results. That's what my dad was pointing to. Results matter. So the mental health industry is getting poor results that are getting worse. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So they are the last group to call themselves experts. Now, most of the world, even the experts, don't call themselves experts. I have a really good mechanic. He never says, I'm a mechanical expert. I had my knee. I blew out my knee trying to impress a girl with a dance move. I did a flip off a wall and I blew out my knee. I landed cool like Spider-Man, but I blew out my knee. So I'd take my knee, my whole body and my knee he was the knee doctor for the San Francisco 49ers. He did MRI. He saw my ACL was blown out. He repaired my knee. I'm up and running for 30 years now. It's fine. He's an expert. He didn't use the word expert, even though he gets results. The one group on the planet that's getting poor results and shouldn't call themselves an experts, mental health experts. Mm-hmm. They call themselves, the one group that calls themselves experts is the one group that should not be calling themselves experts. Are you picking up what I'm laying down?
Yeah, absolutely. But then now
what do you hear me saying?
Results matter.
Well, and that the group that's getting poor results, if you get poor results, you get poor results. But then don't go around telling people what of an expert you are.
Right.
Slow your roll. Be humble. Say, I'm a mental health hobbyist. I've got some things to share. But don't go around, if you're getting poor results, don't call yourself an expert.
Right. But then that's the tough thing is how do individuals discern who's getting, good results versus poor results, uh, that the people call themselves experts, that's who they want to see. So how do we make that switch for those people to figure it out?
Well, again, I'm pretty biased. I've been in this industry for a long time. I've worked with almost every modality and type of coach. I talk to people every day that come to me struggling with what I call the funky five: anxiety, procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism, and low self-confidence. So every day I get people coming to me that have tried all the things out there from the experts. Of course, some stuff is better than others. None of it solves anything quickly because they don't know how, and they're focused on symptoms. So you're not going to find anybody that's getting great results. You'll get people that get better results. So at least when you walk in, be aware. I remember spending all this money with not even any awareness of like, is this working? I just kept spending money because I liked the journey and I thought this is the best I could. I was in this ashram following this guru for like a year. And I was just swept up in the whole romance of like, oh, I'm a seeker and I'm improving myself. And it felt good. And like, I got to think, oh, I'm a good spiritual person. And I was looking at his disciples and they were egoic, angry, like they weren't any better, even though they were living there. That's not the problem. The problem is I didn't see the problem. I was totally oblivious to the results. So if nothing else, your buyer should do two things. One is listen to me. We're getting results and you should find out what we're doing because we're the only people or company on the planet. There's 1 million therapists and coaches on the planet. We're the only ones on the planet that measure results like we do and back up our results at the end. So the best way to get the how and the results is come to us. If you don't want to come to us, when you go to somebody, look at what they're doing and just pay attention. Try to find people who have maybe followed them or ask the person, what are your results? What are you trying to get me? Are you tracking this? And also, here's another one. This is freaking hysterical. Another blind spot. Most people don't do this. You want to look at the person you're following. Now, I know that makes common sense, but there are some very famous coaches that I have met personally, and I will not go into names and I will not gossip, but let's just say they are not people who represent the model that they teach. And we know this. There are gurus who then do shady stuff. There are religious people that talk about God and do shady stuff. Like, that's not a news break. But like, take a really close look at who you're following and really look at their behavior. But also, I had somebody who came to me who had crippling anxiety. And she said, I've been going to this therapist for 6 years, and she's a great therapist. Now, I didn't say anything, and I was like, she's not a great therapist because it's been 6 years. But I also asked her, I said, hey, what do you like about her? She said, well, she's got anxiety, and so I really feel like she understands what I'm going through. Now, I didn't judge her because I get it, but like, think about how crazy pants magoo that is. Would you say, hey, I hired a business coach. I chose him because he lives in his parents' basement because I really think he relates to what I'm going through. No, you'd be like, if you can relate to what I'm going through, you don't know how to get out of what I'm going through.
Yeah. Wow.
So a lot of coaches and therapists, they still are doing the pattern and they're really good at saying, hey, I know what you're going through because I'm going through it too. And it pulls people in, but they're not getting the results. Modern therapy, the father of modern psychology is Freud. He taught all this stuff about understanding and childhood and your parents. He was a chain-smoking cocaine addict.
Jesus.
Okay? And that industry upholds him as like, oh, that's the father of our industry. They don't care about results. They just care about learning and understanding and stuff. So I've asked people when they do decide to work with us, because you got to be pretty brave to work with us because you have to be skeptical but open. And I'll ask people, like, why did you decide to work with us? And they said, well, I heard that you had what I had. And then I heard you on a podcast and you don't seem insecure anymore. You don't seem like a people pleaser anymore. So just the fact that you were where I was and now you're not means you must have figured out the how somehow because you've actually pulled it off. And so in terms of results mattering, your audience can't know if for sure our program works. But I am telling you, I was an insecure, people-pleasing perfectionist who had so much anxiety and PTSD, I was in the fetal position hiding in my apartment. Do I strike you as that person now?
Absolutely not.
No. So that's some data. And the only reason I'm here now is not because I'm enlightened or I opened up a ninth chakra or anything. I'm an engineer. We figured out what works and gets results. That's how I am now. And the exact process that I went through, it took me 3 years because the process was inefficient. We got that process down to 6 weeks. I'm a little bit jealous, but I'm happy to serve.
Can I ask you, what is your typically best type of client that walks in, and then vice versa? What's like a worst typical client, or like not a worst, but someone that's maybe not a good fit for the program, or just trying to understand your typical clients.
It's a good question. So the program, it's a good question if you look at what we do from the old paradigm of spirituality or psychology or personal development, because those are sort of abstract approaches. Like some people focus on mindset, some people focus on, trauma, some people focus on spirituality. If it's something like that, then different people resonate with different types of modalities. But what we figured out, and the breakthrough is what we did is it's mechanical. And by mechanical, I mean, it's not theory. It's mechanical. And by mechanical, I mean, like, let's say you break your bone. That's a mechanical issue. Your bone should be in one piece. It's in two pieces. It's mechanics. It's not theory. That's not your ego. That's not a mindset. You have a mechanical issue. Mm-hmm. So what do? They put a cast on your bone. They hold it steady. And then there's a mechanism that fuses the bone from two pieces to one piece. And they take the cast off. So mechanical problem, mechanical solution. So when you have a broken leg and you walk in, you don't have to be the ideal client, mm-hmm. because the mechanics dictate that you're going to get better. I've had people say to me flat out, they say, I had a client 6 months ago who was a procrastinator. He had it his whole life. He'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on like mindset shifting and goal setting. And he's like, it's just Band-Aids. And he said, but I met somebody at a conference who was a procrastinator. They went through your program. He said, his is gone. And I said, I don't believe you. Not in 6 weeks. He said, yeah, they charge at the end when you get results. And he said, what? Nobody does that. He said, they do. And so that got him intrigued. So he reached out and he said, look, I'll be honest. I don't think you can do this, but it's no risk to try. So I might as well. Like, he had a bad attitude going in, but it doesn't matter. Your leg doesn't need you to have a good attitude for your leg to heal. Yeah. So he went through the program with a bad attitude. And about 4 weeks in, he was just laughing. He wrote me and he's like, man, was I wrong? Like, I was wrong. And this program is so good that even when you don't want it to work, it'll work because it's mechanical. You don't have to like it. Now, the people that end up working with us is very few people. And it's because as much as people claim they want change, real change is scary.
Yeah.
Because people have had this stuff for so long and the therapists have so let you down, people start to identify with their limitations. You'll hear people say, I'm a procrastinator. Not I do a behavior that's I am. I've become it. I'm a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. They identify it. It becomes part of their life and their story of struggle. And people actually start to like to keep it unconsciously, because if they let it go, it's like, well, who would I be without it? I know this. I know this pain. I know this misery. It's familiar. And to let it go is scary. So you put that and the skepticism, most people are afraid to truly change. So the people that work with us, it's like 1 in 1,000. Wow. Even though it works for everyone, even though we have the best offer out there, a complete solution. If it doesn't work, you don't pay. We help like 1 in 1,000. And the people we help are skeptical, but open, and they want the thing. They want to change their life bad enough that it overrides the fear. Any person will be skeptical or afraid of what we're doing because they're skeptical, understandably, and they're really afraid to change. They'll say they're not, but they are.
Yeah.
It's scary to change. I get it. That's human nature. But if your desire to be free of this is strong enough, you can override the fear. So to most of your audience, they'll hear this episode. They'll think like, oh, that guy was interesting. He was slightly entertaining. And they'll just forget about it and go on to another podcast. Even though I just basically said, we can make you happier, guaranteed. Most won't. But to the 1 in 1,000 that's listening, it's the person that's been struggling with anxiety. They've tried a bunch of stuff. It's managing it. They can get through life, white knuckle it. But man, they want to be free of it. If that's you, we help people get that every day. We can get you free of it. If you're a procrastinator and you've been managing your procrastination and it's better and you're working on it, but man, if you could be free of it so that you could wake up every morning and for hours a day, get stuff done to bring value to the world and be fulfilled and be proud of who you see in the mirror. If you like the idea of that, we get people that every day. If you're a perfectionist and it holds you back because you're wasting all this time and it creates doubt and exhaustion and you want to not care what people think of you and just create stuff so that you can be of service and really fulfill your potential. If you want to get that in 6 weeks, we help people get that every day. We can get you that. And if you have low confidence, I mean, I used to be just so terrified of life and wanted people to just like me, and it was crippling me. If that holds you back and you don't want to manage it, you don't want to work on it, you don't want to keep understanding it, you don't want to keep overcoming it, you'd like to just be free of the low self-confidence, self-doubt, so you can be authentic, so you can be open-hearted, so you can go after your dreams and the love that you want. If you really want that, and be honest with yourself, we get people that every day. That's who we work with, people who are motivated and really want it.
Wow. Well, that's so good. And Daniel, as we wrap up here, I want to ask you, where people can find you, obviously, danielpackard.com, but if someone wants to take action today, they just go to your website and book a call with you?
Yep. I like things simple. Our entire program is simple. And I just want to explain one very important key point to educate your audience that I want them to know. Can I do that?
Of course. That was my final question. Is there anything that I haven't asked you or that you want to leave with, final piece of advice with the audience today?
Well, it goes back to what doesn't work and what does work, so that your audience is educated to know what's out there and also to understand the value of what we're doing so that they're less skeptical. The value of what we do is that we figured out that the root cause of all these symptoms was just fear. Procrastinators are afraid to start and finish things. Perfectionists are afraid to make a mistake. People with low self-confidence are afraid to be themselves. People with anxiety are just really afraid. It's all just symptoms of fear. So we said, let's figure out how to heal fear. And we found that fear was not coming from the mind, but the body, the nervous system. The nervous system is your body's threat response system. And if it's off or wonky, you feel unsafe and afraid in your own body. So it's your nervous system is creating all this fear, and then you're experiencing these symptoms of fear. And we spent 8 years understanding the mechanics of the nervous system and how to repair it quickly. And the reason we can do that is not the theory. Again, my dad said, ideas and theories anybody can have. It's the system. And what is a system? A system is not just one tool. It's multiple tools that are designed to get the job done. If you hire a contractor to rebuild your house and they walk up with a hammer and they go, man, I got a hammer. I am so good with this hammer. I got one hammer. Do you think they can rebuild your house if they just have a hammer? No. And it's because you know that a contractor needs not one tool, but multiple tools, a specific set of tools designed to get that job done. A mechanic has mechanics tools, a surgeon has surgical tools. Every profession has optimized tools to get the job done. The problem is your audience goes to experts and they get like one tool, change your mindset, or breath work, or meditation. It's like one tool. Now that is fine to manage things, but one tool will not get the job done. And that's why your audience has failed. It is not your fault. It's that the experts didn't set you up for success. But then even if you have all the tools, that's not enough. Because let's say you have a friend who tastes a chocolate chip cookie and they want to make a chocolate chip cookie. And you actually give them everything they need, all the ingredients and all the tools to make a chocolate chip cookies, but they have no idea how to bake. If you just have the tools and the ingredients, but nothing else, can you make a chocolate chip cookie?
No.
What are you missing?
the instructions or the skills.
Exactly. The instructions,
Mhm.
what to do, in what order, for how long. The instructions. There's instructions for Legos. There are instructions for IKEA. There's instructions for baking. There's instructions. But our happiness, you go to a coach or a therapist, they hand you a tool or a technique and say, good luck. And then you fail. So the reason our system is effective is we spent 8 years figuring out how to lay out the tools. And then we give you the instructions so that every day you have very specific instructions. What do you do today? In what order, for how many repetitions, for how long. Next day, move on to this. There's no guessing, no confusion. So when we hand you all the tools and the simple instructions, can you see that it's much more likely that we're going to solve this than what's available on the market?
Absolutely.
Yes. So when people say, how do you back up your results like that? Why? Because we just do what works. All the tools, simple instructions at the root cause. Not that complicated. So I like things simple. Our solution is simple. My name's Daniel Packard. Go to danielpackard.com. And there's 2 options, both of which, if you want to know more, are a free call with me. So no matter what, you get to talk to me for free. And we have 2 options. One is we call it a next steps call, where basically you just tell me what you're struggling with. And once I understand your unique situation, I'll give you some quick actionable next steps that can move you in the direction of being free of one of the funky 5. Again, anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, low self-confidence. Or if you're interested in the 6-week program, go to danielpackard.com. There's info on the program, how much it is. Spoiler alert, it's way cheaper than you think because we want to make it affordable and help more people. There's basics about the program. We explain our no change, no charge guarantee. There's testimonials, so you know it's not just me. And then if you're interested in the program, book a free quick call with me. We'll see if it's a good fit. If you want to do the program, great. If not, that's okay too. Like I said, we only want to work with motivated people. So to either get a free next steps call or to find out more about the program and see if it's a good fit for you, go to danielpackard.com.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate it. And I know it was a rocky start in the beginning, but I think it was a perfect segue into what you do and how you help people. And I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. It was a beautiful rocky start, just like many beautiful things. Thank you, Lorenzo.